What's up, everybody? It's Joe from Empire Music, empiremusic.com in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are Taylor Guitars' online premier dealer, one of the handful in the world, bringing you the newest and greatest things from Taylor Guitars. Check out empiremusic.com. See our entire selection of Taylor Guitars. Never a stock photo, always showing you the exact guitar you'll get. And you know, we always do a pro setup, dialing every guitar into factory spec. Make sure it's the best playing experience possible. We always want your trade-ins. And know this, we don't carry tons of brands, but the brands we do, we carry super deep. So not only will we get you a great Taylor guitar, but we'll get you the right one. And man, today we're in the middle of a real transformation inside Taylor Guitars. With the launch of Gold Label this year, specifically today at the time of filming here in late spring 2025, we have the brand new Gold Label Grand Pacific 717E that I'm focusing on today. There's also a 517E. You can check them all out at empiremusic.com. Gold Label, you know, is the kind of second transition into adding to the V-Class racing. So, you know, Andy had V-Class, everything went V-Class. Then Bob last year brought the Legacy guitars, which are X-braced. And with the introduction of Gold Label guitars, we now have a V-brace, but it's a fan bracing. And it's just like it sounds. It looks kind of like a fan across, like almost like a little rake across the top. Changing the sonic framework of the guitar. There's some other really cool stuff built into this too that makes the guitar more adjustable and more playable on the fly, and we'll talk about that. But let's get down into it. So the Gold Label 814 and the in that series was a super grand auditorium. Well, this Grand Pacific is a super Grand Pacific, and you know, I don't know. What is that, right? So we have the Grand Pacific body shape, which is a slope shoulder dreadnought, but they have supersized it a little bit, right? So what we have is we have a width of 16 inches across the lower bout, whereas with Martin, like a D28, and we're gonna show side by side, we'll have like a 15.5 inch side by side lower bout. Additionally, at the shoulders, the Taylor is at like 4 1/8 inches. And the Martin is like 3 3/4 or 3 7/8. So I mean, it's just like there's a sizable difference here in the shape of the guitar. They've oversized this guitar, married with the V fan bracing. And what they've done is they've changed the character of the tone. I think if I had any way to make, like, wave a wand to when I came into Taylor Guitars in 1994 selling them, the industry would have reshaped the sound, because a lot of times people are like, Taylors are bright, Martins are bassy. And I always find that to be kind of just off point. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's choosing one thing and just kind of simplifying the experience down to something, right? And if I'd say anything, the tone of a Martin guitar, while yeah, it has lots of bass, the character of tone is very woody and warm. It's a fuller experience, whereas Taylor's always been a more focused, more defined tone, which would lead your ears to hearing maybe more of the top end frequencies of those sounds. But even on a guitar that was like a grand orchestra, a huge Taylor that they've made in the past, a big jumbo, those guitars were still categorized as kind of bright. And I think this guitar here is something that would be more characterized in a rounder, lusher tone. It's a woodier guitar. You know, the Gold Label's idea is to imagine, or Andy imagined, that if Taylor Guitars existed in the 1930s and 40s, what would they have been doing in context of the times? What sound would they be trying to apply to Taylor Guitars' beliefs? And voila, you still have a bolt-on neck. You have an action control neck, which is a truss rod that you can easily adjust the neck angle on the fly, so you can really change your string height very quickly. Not the neck relief, but the actual angle of the neck, which is really, really amazing. And there's tons of information about the action control neck. I don't get too caught up into that, because I think a lot of times people think, oh, I'm gonna just tweak something and I'm constantly fiddling with their guitar. I don't think it's something you do like that. I think the advantage of it is if you find your guitar has moved a little bit and you're ready to do a performance, you can quickly adjust the angle of the neck so that you don't need a neck reset in that moment. You're still adjusting the neck relief with the truss rod. So you have this big sounding full guitar. It's a torrefied spruce top and East Indian rosewood back and sides. This one is a sunburst with an Ivoroid pickguard. It comes in black, it comes in natural, and there's a handful of pickguard, choices that come across those types of guitars. So we have all of those options for you. Sticking with the previous Gold Label 800 series, Andy used a Honduran rosewood bridge, and this one has an ebony fingerboard, which is kind of a good comparison. The Honduran rosewood, if you research that, it's kind of like a guitar, a wood that has a lot of damping, a lot of overtones. It's a very lively rosewood. It's it's more dense than East Indian rosewood, so you get the roundness, but you do get that note separation. I think that's one cool thing that Taylor kept here is you don't end up with a sludgy guitar, because you can buy a cheap guitar that's bassy. If you want just a guitar that sounds like a lot of bass, you can go buy most any $200 laminated guitar and get plenty of bass out of it. Now, are the notes discernible is where the conversation changes, the playability, lots of other things, but the reality of it is bass. I always like to reference, if you're like me and you were born in the late 70s, you go to Radio Shack and get a boombox, you turn the bass all the way up, and it would be like, oh, it's so bassy, but you couldn't hear a word of what was coming out of it, right? And that's not a great experience, right? You wouldn't want to go to a movie theater with tons of bass and not be able to understand the dialogue, right? And I think that's the fine line that all the brands are working on, right? They want to offer you that bottom end, that fullness of tone, but you still want to be articulate. And Taylor does that dance very nicely here. I give you a mahogany neck, standard scale. Overall, everything else you kind of expect from a Taylor guitar. The case is beautiful. We'll get a shot of the case in here for you too. It's like a new kind of color case. It's really pretty and well built. I think the question is going to be for players, is this size of guitar going to work for me? So if you feel like you pick up a previous Taylor Dreadnought, like if you played an 810, or if you played a Martin Dreadnought, or you played the Taylor Grand Pacifics, that 1/2 inch is noticeable. There's no doubt about it. It's a bigger, deeper guitar. It's wider and it's deeper. There's just no way around that reality. What I would say is, I'm like 5'11", you know what I mean? So I'm not super tall. I'm not kind of just average, right? Feels comfortable in my arms. I definitely, you do notice that extra little bit of space up top here. But I will say, obviously, if you're standing, you're not going to notice it. Additionally, the tone that you get out of it, if you love the feel of a Taylor guitar and the experience of a Taylor guitar play-wise, this sonic option has never existed, not at any point in Taylor's history that we've dealt with them. Even if you play a legacy guitar, it still sounds like most Taylor guitars out there today. This and the Gold Label 814 are the first instruments that really kind of do reframe the sonic choices in the Taylor line. And these still might not be for you, but what's cool about this is this gives you the opportunity to A/B this versus other guitars, or reach out to us and say, hey, listen, what I'm really looking for is a great fingerstyle guitar. I'm looking for a great singer-songwriter guitar. Cool, we can use this as a reference, and you can use the standard line, you can use the Builder's Edition line, you can use the Legacy line, and we're going to find a great fit for you. That's why it's really important that we don't stock just a million brands and just a handful of each. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we only carry a small handful of brands, but we carry them super deep. So we're going to be able to help you find the right mix. So if this isn't the right guitar for you, you feel like it's too bulky, you need something that's more responsive, you need a smaller body, you need something in between this, something polar opposite of this, we can use this as part of the framework to present Taylor guitars to you to make sure we find the right thing for you. If you've been dreaming of a Taylor guitar that performs like more historically to pre-war guitars, this is as close as you're going to get. You know what I mean? This is a pretty dramatic step toward the mean of a lot of the most famous guitars, you know what I mean? While still keeping Taylor's personality. It still feels like a Taylor guitar. It definitely has the look of a Taylor guitar. I know they've done some aesthetics where they have kind of like the fancy kind of vintage inspired headstock and the finishes and all that stuff. But when you look at this, it's still got the lines of a Taylor guitar. I mean, there's a certain visual with their finish, their just overall design, their aesthetic is still in their DNA. You're not leaving that. And if you have the opportunity to check out, Justin's doing a lot of comparisons on these. This one to a D28 and the 517 with a D18. So you're going to be able to get good ABs to reference them. And I think in that video as well, you'll get, I know we've shown some reference photos here, but you'll see how the guitar kind of fits on someone's in their playing position with the gold label, the kind of the super dreadnought and the a traditional dreadnought size. So let's go through the dance that I like to do in every one of my videos. I like to do the dynamic range, and I like to do the mids of the guitar. So the dynamic range on this guitar is, I think Taylor's, if you want to highlight something they're really great at, their guitars, I always feel their big guitars are able to play small better than almost everything. Obviously there's been some changes in the market with, Martin's done the golden era bracing, and those guitars are like hyper responsive. So those have really come around and done a great job of being more responsive with a light touch. These are just amazing as well. When you play this guitar lightly, it gives you a lot of tone in that character that we're talking about, and a lot of response, even though it's not being played heavily. Obviously, as you open this up, this thing's a beast. I mean, it's very powerful. So the top end volume here is not, I don't even say it's not worth the discussion. It's just kind of like it's inherent in the design. So kind of like one of those things where it's just like, we don't spend a lot of time telling you like a lot of people fit on a bus. It's like if you look at it, you get it. Here's the drill, right? This is gonna have a lot of output. If I can ask you to focus on something, is I want you to think less about bass and treble, okay, and experience more the overall character, the tone, top to bottom. What is the roundness? What is the fullness like to you? And does that meet what you're looking for? Because again, I think bass treble is just I don't want to say a lazy conversation, but I think it's kind of missing the forest for the trees. Like, I want you to look for the character of the tone. The other thing I'd like to show off is the mids of the guitar. And I think this will be a guitar that still is well defined through the mids. I think this kind of is probably the blurriest Taylor, right? It's just like where the guitar, it still has tons of definition, but it's definitely not as focused as like an 814, a grand auditorium. So, but you still get plenty of definition, and the most probably for this category. The mids are still very well represented. So let's check it out and see what you think. I'm going to take back a little bit about the mids. The mids are still really defined. I know it's interesting. They're so round, the notes, but they still really stay in their lane, which is really cool. I mean, that's if I chose anything without looking at the obvious, tons of tone. I mean, it's like a very full sound, and I don't know. I do know. There's never, even a grand orchestra, the biggest of Taylors, if I've ever strummed through just an open G chord and had that top end sound like that, which is plenty of life and clarity, but not like treble heavy at all, not ice picky at all, not too sparkly. I mean, it's the roundest treble that they've ever offered for sure. So that's kind of a standout in a place that you notice the fullness. I think the mids are really well represented on a rosewood guitar here, which is always kind of a trick, right? And that's why I think a lot of times the top end sounds so brash on rosewood guitars in general, not Taylor's only. is that when you strum through, you get a lot of bass, then the mids are scooped out so dramatically, but by the time you get to that treble, it just cracks you right in the face, and it's like, wow, that is really, really aggressive. Whereas here, since the mids are well represented, the top end is very pleasant and noticeable and would cut through a mix for sure. So if you want to play traditional like bluegrass type music, or you're gonna play lead guitar on this, this will still definitely cut through a mix. But again, it's not going to be too glassy. The mids, if I had to pick a standout on it, outside of the overall character of the tone, which is a unique experience to Taylor, the mids of the guitar are so round, but extremely dynamic and extremely focused, and that is very difficult to do. I mean, it's just this tricky deal. This guitar will sound great live in a scenario. It does come with the LR Bags VTC built in, not an ES2, so you get the LR Bags pickup, which is just a volume and tone control. Undersaddle pickup, very classic. This is one of those things that when you plug it in, you're going to know what it's going to sound like. It's a tried true, super simple. It's a plug and play system that sounds great. So I think that's a very cool add-on. It's the Taylor Gold Label Grand Pacific 717E. As I said, torrefied spruce top, rosewood back and sides. It's a super dreadnought. LR Bags electronics, Honduran rosewood bridge, mahogany neck, ebony fingerboard, V fan bracing with the action control neck, which allows for, and there's tons of video already out there. I'm not going to beat us into the ground on the action control neck. I think it's a cool feature. It's not a reason to buy a guitar. It's cool if it has it, right? Very adjustable. Awesome. Again, I wouldn't make a buying decision on that. But overall, a really, really cool kind of left turn from Taylor Guitars here. These gold labels. Check out all the gold label stuff, the 800s, the Grand Pacifics, the Super Auditoriums. We have all that stuff. Hit empiremusic.com. You can see every photo of all the Taylor guitars that we have. Never a stock photo. We can give you an in-hand description at the shop here. We're glad to break down the differences in the guitars and help you select the right guitar for you. This only works if we get you the right thing. It's like if you buy a Taylor guitar, you're going to get a great guitar. They're expertly made. You are in buying online, you know, if you can get a great guitar, but maybe not the right one for you, we're here to make sure that we have all the options for you, make sure we get you the right instrument, which we're really proud of. Check out all the gold label Grand Pacifics at empiremusic.com. This is the Grand Pacific 717E Gold Label Super Dreadnought from Taylor Guitars. I'm Joe from Empire Music. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit us up on our trade-in portal. Let us know about your trades. Chat with us on the site. Let us know how we can help you with Taylor Guitars. Thanks so much for watching.